Going live. Hey, how's it going, everybody? So every Sunday at 8 p.m. I do a quick catch-up recap with all of you. So comment, ask me questions, and I will answer them. And I don't know if this is working because it's always finicky, but I'm gonna hit this here tweet button. And I don't know if I can keep sitting here because it's kind of, the sun is like in my face. But for those that are just tuning in, make sure to follow me on Twitter at Timcast, comment, and let me know any questions, anything you want to talk about specifically. And there's also a super chat feature. That means you can donate, and any donation that's $5 or more will put your comment above everyone else's. And then it's easier for me to see, and I will do my best to shout you out. Obviously, I can't say everything you guys post because some people post stuff to make me say things that I can't say because they're racist and stuff like that. But yeah, someone just commented left is wrong. Well, no, I think, so the point of this, from your communist follower, the point of this stream, I guess, it's like my Sunday streams recap the things that I did throughout the past week and the things I talked about. So we saw like the Comey testimony, and then we saw the big anti-Sharia versus counter-protest stuff. So someone said, is diversity and unity mutually exclusive? I have no idea. Maybe, I don't know. I was just skating earlier. Someone said, go skate. Why is centrism so weak? Left and right suck. We need an 8-party system. So here's the thing. We saw the other day the anti-Sharia stuff all over the country. Luke Rudowski and Lauren Southern got sprayed with urine, and I think Luke was punched. I had an Antifa guy try taking my hat, and he lunged at me, and that was in the video I did earlier. So the point is, the people who were protesting the other day they're not protesting their causes. They say they're chanting things. They say they have a cause, but they're really just protesting each other. That's really it, and that's why I think with the guy who came at me, the Antifa guy who was screaming at me and then tried taking my hat, the guy doesn't like me. He's not there for, countering the Sharia protest. He's there because of, fascism or whatever. And so that includes attacking me. He called me a fascist, and then he started, making a joke, and he lunged at me. So someone said, glad you're streaming on YouTube. Yeah, YouTube's a lot better. But, the challenging thing, I guess, is that I can really tell, based on the title of the stream I do, if people are going to click the link and watch it. And it's a conundrum with news in general where we know how to title things to get people to click it, so you're stuck between make a clickbait title and get actual views and get people to engage and participate, or just make like a general title and then people won't click and participate. It is what it is. But there was a super chat. Someone said, I'm on a 4G network walking on my smartphone and it's still a good connection. I think it means talking. Also, right is right. I can't. Heterogeneity is our... He called me a mixed race fascist. Diversity is white genocide. I guess by that logic, diversity is the genocide of literally any race, I suppose. Someone's asking what's up with Subverse. So I tried doing subverse.net, which is the site that my brother, for the most part, was running, and then I helped with it. But it's damn near impossible to do everything I do. Videos every day, meetings. I just did a video for my buddy's channel and trying to run Subverse at the same time. So I'm trying to get other people on it, right? Like my brother and Taylor. But the reality is someone really going to buckle down and actually pick up the slack and make something like Subverse happen? There's only so much I can do. I'm not an administrator, and that's why it started to fall apart. But, it is what it is. Do you wish you could grow a proper goatee? Nope, never occurred to me. Oh, I said, no, I'm a mixed-race fascist. They're referring to themselves, not me. Okay. What do you think about all the anti-Semites in the comments? Well, I don't like anti-Semitism. I have a lot of friends who are Jewish, and they're pretty cool people. But people are going to say whatever they want, and, if people want to say things, as long as they're not advocating violence, I guess when someone, yeah, like, I don't even think it matters because YouTube doesn't do anything about these comments anyway. Like, there's literally nothing you can do. Ever consider coming to Scotland? Yes. I don't have. Someone asked me what my rarest Pepe is. No, I don't have any rare Pepes. Someone handed me a wooden coin that was laser printed, least rare Pepe on it. Are you going to South Korea? Yeah, it looks like it. I'm supposed to hear from Luke what his plan is. But Tuesday morning, it seems like. So it's, it makes it, the hardest thing about doing a video every day is that if I fly to Korea, my flight's going to be at like 10. It's going to be like 6 a.m. And then by the time it's a 12-hour flight, which means I have to do a video the day before, and have that uploaded and ready. So maybe I'll do something with Luke, and talk about going to Korea. But I'm trying to connect with people who are in Korea. Someone asked if we got anything good at Bilderberg, and no, don't think so. I was there for like 2 days and left because I just think Bilderberg is, Someone said, what do you think about guns? Okay, let's talk about guns. So why is my political stance tends to be moderate? I'm gonna tell you a story, right? Let me fascinate y'all with left and right politics, gun issues, gun debate. I grew up in Chicago. Chicago's got a lot of gun violence. I think Chicago has like the most gun violence. No, maybe Baltimore does. Chicago's got a lot of gun violence. And there's a lot of people in Chicago who want guns banned. And for a long time, guns were totally restricted in Illinois up until the Supreme Court ruling that they couldn't ban people from carrying weapons under the Second Amendment. And now in Chicago, a bunch of signs have popped up on businesses with like a gun and like a circle with a line through it saying like, you can't bring your guns in our business. So you can open carry around the city, but you can't actually go to any business because they won't let you in. But here's the thing. I lived in rural Miami for a year. This was just last year, actually. I left in August. I was living in the Redlands. This big house in the middle of nowhere, super cheap. And I bought a .22 air compression rifle, right? So that's the small pellet gun, break barrel. You take the barrel, you crack it, and then you put a pellet in it, and you can shoot at stuff. And I got it mostly for fun. We would shoot balloons and targets and stuff. And one day, in the middle of the night, the closest convenience store was about 7 miles away from us. Seriously, it was, you're going 60 miles an hour down a backcountry road for about, 10 or so minutes before you actually get to the gas station. And we're buying milk from a gas station because there's not actually a convenience store. Police, forget about it. If, something happened, you call 911, sure, they'll be there in an hour. I mean, they're far away. I'm on a farm. And so what ended up happening was, not too far away, about a mile or so away, the landlord of my property came in one day, said they're coming to talk to us, and they said, be careful because there was a string of home invasions. And just when she was telling me this, she said, just about a week ago, a man was in his home. He was taking a shower in the second floor of his house. When he came downstairs, there were 2 guys going through his stuff, and when he yelled, they pulled out a gun and shot him in the chest twice, killing him. And and look, you're in the middle of nowhere. It's a rural place. Most people out there are conservative. And I think one of the contributing factors is that they can't rely on anyone but themselves. So one day, it was about midnight. Me and my friends were in the kitchen. My buddy Adam's making pizzas. We would always buy these like pizza crusts and then just invent crazy pizzas. We made like a fruit pizza. We I made jam, and then we just did like fruit leather and watermelon, just really crazy weird food. So it's around midnight, and Adam made like a barbecue cheddar pizza. That was one of the best ones. When all of a sudden we see a light in my yard, and this is like a 5-acre property. It's a pretty big space. They're shining a light, and so all of a sudden everything goes dead quiet, and I can't remember who said, but they're like, dude, someone's in the yard. So it's me, Adam, Adam's fiance, and my buddy, my half-brother, Ryan. And so I take the air rifle, I crack it, I didn't load it, I went outside and I yelled, hey, boom, and fired in the air, and then light, gone. Person gone, presumably. And so when people ask me what I think about guns, Bernie Sanders actually said this. He said it's a rural versus urban issue. When you're in a big city and there's police everywhere, you call 911, police are a few minutes away, hopefully, then it makes sense for people to say, like, oh, you shouldn't have guns, because with the population density, accidents are going to happen, and then it's just, ooh, and then the police are there. So that's a lot of what people feel. They're like, oh, as long as the police have guns, we'll be okay, and I can call 911. But when you live in the middle of nowhere, and you hear stories about home invasions and people being murdered, and you can't call the police because they'll never make it to you in time, what do you think people are going to do? They're going to buy guns, and they're going to keep them to protect themselves. So it's not so much, for me, it's not about me arguing whether or not you should be for or against guns. It's realizing that people who live in different places are going to have different perspectives, different needs, and there's not a blanket solution to the whole thing. So, I mean, Chicago, gun control did a whole lot of good for them. I mean, no, it didn't. Cardinal Bree, Super Chat. Thanks for answering my question about guns. I appreciate your honest response. Keep up the good work. Yep. So, I have friends who live in rural places, and they fire guns all the time. They've got, like, full auto, just ridiculous, from their film videos, and people love watching YouTube videos of guns, Desert Eagles, boom, boom. It makes sense if you live in the middle of nowhere. If you're careful, you're trained, health insurance, but you know what you're doing, and you grew up with a good fear, and I don't mean fear like you should be scared of them, but like a good respect for what a gun can do, then that makes sense. And then I understand why in cities they're concerned about that. But I will say at the same time, whatever the solution is for preventing accidental gun deaths and gun violence in places like Chicago, gun control did not work at all. So I don't know what the solution is, but I can say that for sure. Growing up in Chicago, watching people, like, I had a dude shoot at me just driving past. My car's like this, his car's like this, and he just pulls out a gun and goes, bam, and fires. Just, I don't know. So, but this is the right kind of topic. This is perfect for the discussion of, like, left versus right. I think ultimately people aren't wrong most of the time, because what they're talking about are opinions, When someone's saying, like, oh, we should or shouldn't have gun control, they're coming from literally two different perspectives. And so neither is technically wrong. So in LA, there's always helicopters flying super low. I used to live in Koreatown, and a police helicopter would fly super low and shine spotlights in our windows. So someone's saying, based on months of watching your alleged non-biased reports, you are clearly left biased. Why should we trust anything you excrete onto the internet? That's, that comment was really funny to me, because I get called alt-right and things like that. And it seems like no matter what I say, if it's not left and if it's not right, it's the opposite. So, like, people on the left are like, well, you clearly don't agree with me, therefore you're right. And the people on the right are like, you don't agree with me, therefore you're left. And I'm like, what? So somebody posted on my Twitter the other day attacking me, saying that I didn't do enough videos criticizing Donald Trump. And they're like, why aren't you criticizing Trump more? And I'm like, I just did a video the other day about Comey lying under oath, which was actually talking about the Trump's lawyer made a statement that Comey, that they believed that he was wrong about the memos, because the New York Times was posting from those memos a day before Trump tweeted about it. And then everyone started saying that Comey lied under oath. And when you look at the stories, it's like, well, it looks like, Comey was leaking. Absolutely, that's a fact, right? We can look at the New York Times story and know that Comey was telling people what was going on. He was leaking information about private meetings, if you want to call that leaking. But was he leaking the memos? No, so did he lie under oath? It doesn't seem likely. I mean, at least the media has the way the story's been presented, it doesn't say that they had access to the memos before he claimed. If someone says, are a part of the middle or upper class? Are you asking me if I'm middle or upper class? I have no idea. I mean, I think middle class. I will flat out say that I have certainly been upper class, working for some big media companies that pay ridiculous amounts of money for no reason, but that is no longer the case. So now I'm carefully watching my bank account slowly evaporate when I do this kind of stuff. Someone says, "All hail the Jews." Well, that's kind of the opposite of what people usually say on YouTube. But by all means, you have free speech. Oh yeah, you know what you should do? You should give the video a thumbs up. Mash the thumbs up button. It YouTube algorithm boost. Then YouTube says like, "Oh man, look at all these people who like this channel. We better show this channel to other people." One of the biggest challenges is expanding on YouTube, especially when I don't make absurdly inflammatory content. If you look at like Mark Dice, who broke 1 million followers, you look at people like Lacey Green on the left, who has 1.5 million subscribers. It's when you make stuff that fits a narrative, it's shareable because people like to use it as ammunition for their cause. So it's hard when my videos kind of teeter back and forth. Like I've been doing news for years, and the beginning of this year I had something like almost 90,000 Twitter followers and like no YouTube subscribers, because what happens is I gain a ton of followers when I cover something like Ferguson, and then when I go and cover something that will piss off the left, then they'll unfollow me and yell at me and tell me I'm biased and "You've changed, man," and I'm like, just doing the same thing I've always done. Video keeps freezing. I've got like super hardcore internet right here, man. I don't know, maybe it's YouTube. You call yourself a journalist, but you keep saying your political opinions. Shouldn't a journalist be neutral when covering? The issue, look, other people tell me I'm unbiased or objective, or like I never say that. Like I maybe I have in the past, but I don't know. I always argue with people like, no, I don't think I'm unbiased or objective or anything like that. I'm not on anyone's side, So when I go to look the other day at the anti-Sharia thing, I'll entertain your ideas. I'll let either side talk. I was talking to this Hispanic guy who was saying that he doesn't like Trump, he doesn't like Obama. Just because he doesn't like Trump doesn't mean he likes Obama. And I'm like, yeah. And I talked to an Antifa guy, and he just said his thing. And I talked to a couple people on the anti-Sharia side, and they said their thing. But when it comes down to the experience you're going to see watching my live streams in a place like the anti-Sharia march, yeah, one of the Antifa guys attacked me. It wasn't like he was trying to kill me or anything, but he lunged at me and he grabbed my head because he had his hand on my head. He was trying to take my hat off, and so he ended up making contact. It's not really a big deal. It's not like I don't want to make it seem like someone put a knife to my throat or something, but it's not normal to go out somewhere and have someone lunge at you and make physical contact with you in an aggressive manner. I'll put it that way. And so my only choices, and I was talking to somebody about this after the march. They were like, "Oh, you should chill and just ignore that stuff." And I'm like, "Dude, do you understand when you've got 10,000 people who are watching the stream, and then people come up to me and they're like, I deserve to be on this stream," like that creepy stalker guy in Portland who just kept jumping in front of the camera and dancing. And then he goes up to people and tries riling them, "Hey, it's Tim Pool," and then people start screaming my name. It's creepy and it's dangerous. But then I have people who have physically attacked me in the past. I have people who are from New York who were in France who attacked me. They show up there, they start screaming at me, and they chase me around. People in New York have physically grabbed me. One guy judo chopped my arm and sent my phone flying. So I'm constantly on edge when I'm at these places. If someone's gonna make a lunge, gonna lunge at me, that pisses me off. And the problem is, my only response is to back away and do nothing. Because if I respond, if I fight back, I will be arrested. The police, they're not going to do anything if, when this guy lunged at me, the cops watched it happen. They didn't do anything. They just shrugged it off. If I fought back, a fight breaks out, then the police come in and arrest us both. So all I can do is block and back away and let this guy do this. There's nothing I can do about it. I could fight back and then I could spend the night in jail, and then my live stream's shut down, and then I produce no content. And so simply for the emotional satisfaction of fighting back against these people who are nuts, I get to go to jail? Nah, it's just not worth it. And then I have, I said this in a video before when I was talking about not doing stuff like this anymore. People have actually just gotten in Ubers with me and some other people, and just gone into restaurants and sat at tables across from us just staring at us. I've met a lot of really cool people who will just be like, hey, what's up, man? Cool if I hang out? I'm like, yeah, for sure. Like, everyone's welcome to hang out, and we'll go grab food. I was just skating in Los Angeles, and this dude, he's like, how do I know you? Oh, man. And then he said, he's like, let's go grab food. And I'm like, sure, yeah. And me and he's like this older dude and the skater kid, and we grabbed lunch and we talked politics and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's totally cool. But when you get people who are kind of out of it, who are, disrespecting you, treating you like a joke, thinking that they have a right to just physically grab you, sneak up behind you, and just do things to you because you're their joke, nah, man, that's bullshit. Poo on the left. So somebody was saying, why do I talk about opinions or whatever? I mean, the point is, both factions the other day, the Antifa and the anti-Sharia, both sides were anti-Sharia and both sides were anti-fascist. I oppose fascism, and I also oppose Sharia. I'm for free expression, free rights, gender equality. I oppose racism, all of these things. And most people do too, especially the people who are on the Trump side. And so that's why I'm sitting there and I'm like, you know why I'm not on anyone's side? Because technically they're on each other's side too, but they just demonize each other because of really small things. Like, it really just comes down to trust. The people on the anti-Sharia side are like, I trust Donald Trump. And the people on the anti-fascist side are like, well, Trump's a fascist. And then I'm like, you guys realize if you just kind of stop talking about that and come together on a problem you actually agree on, you could solve that problem. All right, I got a super chat here. I think the Overton window has shifted. Your center left is now Dave Rubin style center left. You can't define yourself, your enemies do. If you ever come to Toronto, I'll buy you a drink. Appreciate it. No, somebody was saying that I was like, you're all right, Tim. And so I took a political compass test, and I'm like libertarian left. So like there's the square, and then you've got authoritarian up here, and then you've got libertarian down here, and then you've got left and right. And actually, I don't know if the screen inverts for you guys, but basically I'm a like closer to the bottom, libertarian left. Mostly my ideas are like I don't believe that people have authority. I'm an anti-establishment. I grew up like in the anarchist scene, and I don't think you have a right to coerce someone through physical force or through manipulation to make them do your bidding. But people do it, and that's authoritarianism. David Garcia, super chat. How divided do you think America is, and will Americans be united again? And why does the left love Islam and ignore its flaws? So the thing about the left is that I'll come back to the Islam thing. But what's happening with the left coming to counter-protest the anti-Sharia marches, it's more about left versus right. It's not actually about these core issues, because at the root of it, like I said, the counter-protesters told me that they didn't like Sharia law either. And so what's the issue? Oh, one side's fascist and the other is communist or something. And so they're really just protesting each other. That being said, for the people who are defending Islam, what they're actually talking about is the right to practice your religion uninhibited. And so what ends up happening is the people on the left are saying that, the people on the right want to fearmonger and take away people's rights to practice their own religion. There's a lot of Christian fundamentalists who just don't like Muslims, and so they want to restrict religious freedom. And the people on the right are saying, no, it's not about religious freedom, it's about radical extremists, etc., etc. Although there definitely are people on the right who just don't like Islam as a whole. And there are people on the left who do, who are, feminists who wear the hijab and things like that. I got a super chat, I think. Nitrogen76 says, if you're ever in Dallas, I'll introduce some gun nuts and we'll get some good southern barbecue. Keep it going. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Another super chat from the Geth. Left needs victims to virtue signal. Islam is professional victims. It's a symbolic relationship. I don't think that Islam are professional victims. Here's something that I always say to people. I understand the left feels that Muslims are under attack, and it really is like strange to me. But here's what I tell people: do you know how many Christians? I'm going to ask you guys right now. Do you know how many Christians there are on the planet? I want to see in the comments, and I'm going to wait. How many Christians are there on planet Earth? Nope, those are just swastikas. 5 billion, 6 billion. 2 billion. It's around 2 billion. Someone said 2.4 billion, so I don't know if you Googled that or whatever, but it's around 2 billion. Do you know how many Muslims there are on the planet? Okay, 1.6 billion. So, how many countries are considered Christian nations? Are nations that are predominantly Christian? Dozens. A lot of them. How many countries are considered Muslim nations? Again, dozens. A lot of them. And now here's my favorite part. Do you know how many Jews there are on the planet? How many people are Jewish on planet Earth? 15 million. And how many countries are considered Jewish nations? Technically one, but it's in the middle of a conflict between, it's a two-state conflict. So it's really interesting to me, regardless of whatever your stance is on Judaism, that of the Abrahamic religions, the Jewish community has a country that's embroiled in conflict, surrounded by other countries that want to just kill them, and they're significantly less than either Christians or Muslims. But the interesting thing is, there's a lot of discrimination against Jewish people in the U.S. from the left and from the right. Someone said Jews are few but powerful. And so, my thing is, the Muslim nations like Saudi Arabia are significantly wealthier and have more access to resources than the Jewish community, and the Christian community is also significantly wealthier with tons of access to resources. So I'm just curious then why the left is very, very hard on, not so much on Jews as a whole, but there are a lot of groups that take what Israel is doing and hold that against all Jewish people. I got some super chats here, so let's pop over. I think you should ask the anti-Sharia Trump supporters if they are aware that Trump sold $110 billion in weapons to Saudi Arabia. So one of the counter-protesters was saying that. He was bullhorning, saying, how do you feel about Trump doing the deal with Saudi Arabia? And yeah, that's a good one. What would happen if we suffered a 9/11 style attack in this climate? I don't think the climate matters. Typically whenever there's a big attack, it rallies patriotism. People, Trump's approval rating would skyrocket if something like that happened, and that's what we kind of saw with George W. Bush. Someone says, do you feel the swastika motif delegitimizes an otherwise acceptable nationalist movement? Well, I don't know how to address that specifically, but what I will say is there are white nationalists on the Trump side who are holding up signs that say "De Goyim no," and they're saying things like, JQ and all that stuff, and that absolutely delegitimizes the entire movement. When people on the left see someone holding a sign that says "De Goyim no," or people who are going up and ranting about the Jews, like, you're just going to lose the mainstream. You're going to lose most people. They're going to be like, yeah, nah. So the issue is whether you believe that stuff or not, like, whether you believe in any conspiracy theory, when you step outside of social norms, people will hold that against you, and it restricts your ability to actually solve problems. So you do you. Got a super chat here. How does the current situation in American politics compare to other nations you've seen break down, and what can we do to walk it back? Well, here's the thing. In these other countries, this sun's super bright. In like Ukraine, there was escalating tension between the state and the people. In Egypt, we saw there was the Tamarod and the Muslim Brotherhood, and they were fighting each other, but they had they took shotguns, and they basically broke them down into like big pistols, and they would put a birdshot cartridge in it, and it was this big crazy when one of the guys that was working with us got shot in the back twice. So I think the scary thing about what's happening in the US is the rhetoric, is that everyone's a Nazi. There's that Chris Ray Gun song, Punch a Nazi, which is just beautiful lyric writing, excellent cover of Paparazzi by Lady Gaga. But my favorite part is in the beginning, when he says that if you don't constantly criticize the president, you're a white supremacist. And then in the video, the guy like turns around at a Starbucks and sees all these people, and he's like, they're everywhere. And so there's this extreme rhetoric where the the fringe left, the far left, really does believe that anyone who is to the right of them, like anyone to the right of Stalin, is a white supremacist racist. I mean, look at what happened yesterday in D.C. with Black Lives Matter shutting down the gay pride event. The left is very... I've been saying this for a while, but they cannibalize their own. They're fighting each other. Meanwhile, the Trump supporters are just kind of like rallying around a cartoon frog and memes. The people on the right, Trump supporters, have some core ideas they all agree with. Some of them disagree. But then what ends up happening is they show a Pepe meme and everyone's like, yeah, and they cheer for it. That's it. But then you look at what's going on with the left. Lacey Green, for example, she comes out and says, I would like to have a real conversation with people. And so what do? They dox her. They publish her personal information. They start attacking her relentlessly. Simply for trying to be reasonable? What the scariest thing I saw at the anti-Sharia, the Sharia march, was the counter-protesters said over the megaphone, do not have conversations with these people. And I'm like, no, that's exactly what you should do. Like, everyone come together, we all sit down, and we have discussions amongst ourselves to figure out how to solve these problems. What are your thoughts on the UK elections, the coalition government between the DUP and the Tories, and the potential destruction of the Good Friday Treaty? I got to be honest, I don't know jack about UK politics or their government or what any of that means. I followed it a little bit, but don't know a whole lot about UK. Someone said, Tim avoids conspiracy theories and actual conspiracies. No, I don't. Like, you guys know about the banker plot, right? What was that guy's name? Smedley Butler or something like that? Back in the early 1900s, this general came out and said a bunch of bankers were trying to get him on board with overthrowing the government and forming some kind of like authoritarian regime or something like that. The Gulf of Tonkin incident, I believe, this is not my area of expertise, but I believe the Gulf of Tonkin incident, which caused the U.S. to enter the Vietnam War, was actually proven to be fake. So, but then, we can go from somewhere where it's like, it has been accepted that the Gulf of Tonkin was a false flag attack that the Americans staged to rally support for entering Vietnam. It's another thing to then be like, George Bush did 9/11 or something crazy like that. By all means, believe it. Let's talk about the Seth Rich stuff, for example. By all means, you can have a hypothesis. My hypothesis is that Julian Assange said the things he did because he is implying Seth Rich was the leaker, and further hypothesizing that Seth Rich was then killed because of it, but there's no direct proof. We can't actually see any physical evidence. There's the body camera footage, sure, whatever it shows, I'd be interested to see that. But when you talk conspiracies, you immediately lose legitimacy, and it actually holds back your cause. Thank you for the super chat, Alana Paulus. Come to Houston, I'll introduce you to my friends. So what I tell people, I'm like, look, man, if you are really about this, solving Seth Rich's murder, then stop talking about Hillary Clinton, stop talking about WikiLeaks, and focus specifically on the core issues of the case. Okay, the police have body cameras. They haven't released the footage. We don't know what's on the footage. It could be because they don't want to publish evidence that could help the killers get away. In that case, do what you can for the groundwork, the grains of sand that make the heap, and say, let's just work every step of the way to figure out what happened to Seth Rich, and then maybe as you put these pieces together, you might find something that actually is evidence to what you believe. But as soon as you come out and say there's a conspiracy and that the Clintons are doing this crazy stuff, everyone's just going to go, get out of here, I'm done. And you lose them. It's just ineffective. Why do trolls exist? Well, trolls exist because trolling is funny, and everyone likes being funny. And I gotta say, there's a lot of really great trolls. Props to a lot of you guys. Somebody went onto my Wikipedia page, and I swear to God, I laughed for like 20 minutes. I was with my friends, and we were talking about Wikipedia, and I can't edit my Wikipedia, just so you guys know. It's just like, I don't know, a bunch of people on Wikipedia who control that, or however that works. But it said Tim Pool is an award-winning journalist from Chicago, Illinois, and somebody edited it. They deleted award-winning and put bald, and so it said Tim Pool is a bald journalist from Chicago, Illinois, and I laughed for it was fucking hilarious. I was with my friends explaining Wikipedia, and I don't know, that was really good. So there's really good trolls. There's some. Someone said stop painting the left and right with a broad brush. Well, it's not my intention to do that, so I'll clarify that there's a big spectrum. It's a gray and it's not black and white. Most of the people on the left that I know are like normal people, just like super normal. I did a video where I went to the skate park, skated around, and then asked some progressives. They're all Bernie voters, and they were like, violence is bad. They didn't like hearing about what Antifa was. They're like, man, going to a rally with violence and explosives, that's messed up. What are you doing? That's crazy. They all said that Trump supporters have a right to support the president, and that the one guy actually told me, I don't think he said this on camera, but he was like, it's kind of crazy that people would try and disrupt Trump just because you don't like him. Why would you want to why would you want to sabotage the captain of your ship? And that was interesting to me that he said that, because I'm like, well, I mean, most people on the left, they don't like Trump. But for you to this guy took the position of kind of like, well, Trump's the president now, so I guess let him do his thing, and there's no point in causing problems. So it's interesting to hear that. But this is what I say all the time. The left and the right, the average left and right wing person, are just normal people. Like, there's a video that was on Reddit on the front page of people who were saving this little girl who was kidnapped by a serial killer, and they're in the country. You can hear the southern accent, and I'm just imagining. I'm like, I'm not going to assume these guys are conservative, but I'm like, these guys have a political belief. These guys believe in some kind of politics. But right now, they're saving the life of a young girl who was kidnapped, and that's all that matters. They are humans being bros, risking their lives, working diligently to track down a nut job and save the life of somebody. And no one cares what these guys' politics are. But I'm sure most people would reduce these guys to their politics if it was a political discussion. You go out and you see somebody and people start talking like, oh, you're a Trump supporter, therefore you're crazy. That person could be an EMT, they could be a lawyer, a doctor, a scholar. They could even be a plumber, somebody who like fixed your house and helped you poop. Like, people in our society do things for other people, and most of the time I guess people ignore the contributions that people are making to society and reduce everyone else to their politics. Someone said poop. Yes, that's right. Yeah, some of the trolls are pretty good. Somebody said a comment that I thought was pretty funny. Yes, I did say poop. Save as much money as you can and do a cross-country road trip interviewing average Americans about the current political discourse. That was actually the original plan before I did Sweden. So Emily and I were talking about just going on a road trip where we would just go to really, really small places. I drove from New York to Chicago to North Dakota, down to California, to Chicago, and then back to New York. And I went to some of the smallest towns I can't remember exactly, I think we were in Nebraska, and just like these tiny places where like the only store was a Walmart for some reason, and people had to drive like 20 miles to come to that Walmart. And I went to a little burger joint and I talked to people. And the interesting thing I found is I was driving on a road through, I think it was Wyoming. And that's scary because Wyoming's empty, just nothing. Cell phones didn't even work. And running out of gas, when all of a sudden I look to my left and there's this little house and I see a gas pump. Or actually, no, it was the woman who was with me, it was a rideshare. I think she pointed out the gas pump, and I'm like, oh my God, we've been driving for like 100 plus miles, and I didn't realize I would need to get gas. Pull in, go inside, awesome little setup, little shop. There's a guy sitting at a little table watching Fox News, and he's got a little dog, and the little dog's doing his thing, and there's like groceries and stuff, and I'm like, wow, man, tiny little convenience store. Nothing for miles, probably like, seriously, from this guy's place, it was like another 20 or 30 miles till you got to another house or farm. And here he was. People were pulling in, getting gas. They were buying milk and eggs, driving 20 miles to do this. And so life really is different when you're in somewhere with no city lights, 10, 20, 30 miles away from the next human being. And you're going to have a really different perspective on life compared to people who are in cities. And this is what happens. Liberals live in cities, conservatives live in the country. Not all of them, but it tends to be how it is. So 40 minutes in, I'll just say follow me on Twitter at Timcast. You can follow me on Instagram at Timcast. If you're not already, I think most of you are, but you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Timcast, and share videos, I guess. I guess that's how you do it, right? If you share the videos, then it helps build the channel up or whatever. But you can also give a thumbs up, mash the like button, because that helps the channel, and then YouTube tells everybody how cool I am, and then and then all the famous people come to me and they're like, Tim, you're so cool, and yeah, appreciate it. I got a super chat here. What is the scariest situation you found yourself in while covering an event or work-related? Here's the thing. People have asked me about scary stuff, and I'm kind of like, no. I mean, if I was scared, I wouldn't do it, right? Ferguson was scary because people were shooting guns, and there were three different times during Ferguson coverage where I was shot at. And what's really annoying is that a bunch of these like journalists, I guess, look at my Twitter profile picture, which is me wearing a bulletproof vest. This is from 2 years ago. So it's about 2.5 years ago, and that was Ferguson. They were like, this guy's in the suburbs with a bulletproof vest on. I'm like, yeah, St. Louis is dangerous. It's crazy. I went to Ferguson with Casey Neistat, and we both had bulletproof vests. This was 2014. We both had bulletproof vests, and as we're putting our vests on, some reporter walks past us and laughs. He goes, and sure enough, people got shot. A friend of mine got his car jacked and torched. People were firing guns. Look, if you're going to go into a place where people have guns and they are shooting them, wear a vest. All right? Because if you get shot, no one's going to blame. Like, no one's going to, like, it's on you. You walked into this place. Got a super chat here from some chick. I don't know how you do this and put up with trolls who literally make an account just to troll you. Like Tim Pool's head, troll dude, get a life. Keep up the good work. Oh, dude, you know what, man? All the trolls that are, like, literally making accounts about me, like, I just gotta say, if you care that much about me, like, that makes me feel good. For somebody to take the effort to make an account, like, upload the picture, and then start, like, constantly just talking about me, I'm like, you really must think something of me. Dude, I gotta say, I'm grateful to everybody who's watching. Like, you guys rock. You have no idea how weird it is to just one day have people be like, I mean, I guess it wasn't overnight. It's been like 6 years, but for people to just come up to me and be like, "You're cool," I'm like, I am. I didn't know that. I appreciate it. Yeah, bald lives matter. That's right. Trolls just want to have fun. There's a thing I noticed about society, and there's like some online communities that form. And I think a lot of people point the finger at 4chan for having a lot of troll culture, but there really are a lot of them. And you know what it is? I was talking to some people about just like these online forums, these communities, where a bunch of dudes get together and they do something crazy, not like bad, but they'll like crowdsource something really interesting. When it comes to things like 4chan and the other, I don't know, I can't name some of the other ones, but we'll use that reference. Society is pretty mean to like young dudes, in my opinion. I'm not saying guys have it worse than anybody else. I don't know that. I would just say there's a lot of people who are treated like shit, and then you find an online community that you can be a part of, trolling. You make jokes, people laugh at your jokes. You don't got to worry about someone like taking a dump on you, and it feels good. And then what's really fascinating is because I've talked to a lot of the people who have come out to these Trump rallies from organizing on 4chan, and I'm just basically like, so you guys found a community where you appreciate each other and you get positive reinforcement, you do things that are funny, you do things that each other likes, and then now you're actually coming out to these events and you're meeting each other, and it's like you're making friends with each other and stuff like that. And so I find that particularly fascinating. I think that's pretty cool. Got a super chat here. I've been enjoying your work since Zuccotti Park. Keep it up. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Got a Euro super chat, €5. Do you think the obsession with terms like left and right are a part of the problem because of how meaningless they are when it comes to political nuance? Oh yeah, hands down. I mean, we're all guilty of it. People like putting things in, they like looking for patterns, and then they put things in groups. So for me, while my politics are more left than right, the people on the left are like, well, Tim doesn't blindly agree with us, therefore he must be right. And people on the right are like, well, Tim doesn't blindly agree with us, therefore he must be left. I will say this, though, because for the sake of just being straight up, most people on the left and the right don't act that way. It's really just like the fringies, the people who are far, far left are like, Tim, you're a Nazi. But most people on the left are like, nah, Tim, you're kind of like a center-left, moderate kind of dude. Justin Force, do you think that welfare has played a part in the post-civil rights movement downfall of the black community? No, I mean, I don't know. What I will say is, whether people want to admit it or not, here comes your liberal news from Tim Pool. I did a documentary on this in Ferguson. So, St. Louis County, what people call St. Louis, is actually something like 95 cities. And many of these jurisdictions are believed to have been set up specifically to flee from the encroaching minorities that were moving into the actual St. Louis proper. They built a thing called Pruitt-Igoe, which was government housing, which I guess you could say is welfare. And then what we saw from that was what's called white flight, where the educated elite white people started fleeing to smaller, setting up smaller incorporated jurisdictions, and then restricting new developments so that only their communities could stay there. In which case, St. Louis ends up being something like 95 different cities. So what happens when you have like a broken taillight? Well, if you're going to drive 5 miles through St. Louis with a broken taillight, you're going to drive through like 5 cities. Maybe 2 or 3 cities, if I don't want to exaggerate, but you'll get a ticket in each. And that's, if it's a $50 fine or 3 days in jail, now you've got $100 and 6 days in jail. So that's like the kindling of what happened with Ferguson. There were some guys that were interviewed in my documentary that said they got jaywalking tickets for there was a street they were on that didn't have sidewalks and didn't have crosswalks, and when they crossed the street, they got jaywalking tickets. And they're like, the tickets are like $200. What are we supposed to do? These guys are working at gas stations. They're working minimum wage jobs. They can't afford this stuff. And so, whether it's like systemic, right? I think one of the big problems is we really do have problems with racism, not in the sense that individuals in like the average police department are saying flat out like, I don't like this kind of person, but that there really is this historical problem that came with, I'll put it this way, if throughout generations you were of moderate means, and then there's another class of people that were literally slaves, it's going to be a lot harder for them to build old money, as we call it. But my biggest concern, I suppose, then is, yeah, someone said it, libtards equals everything is racist. Exactly. When you have people that are on the far left say like everything's white supremacy and everything's racist, you can't actually solve the real problem of the actual racism. And that's what melts my brain. I'm like, yeah, we do have problems with, someone says Sharia law has no race, right? So I'll say this too for like the left and the right. There are problems with terrorism. There are problems with racism. But by being so extreme and people fighting each other over these, no one actually sits down to solve the problem. Have a discussion about it. That just frustrates me. I'll tell you another story. I know this person. I worked at Fusion. This person was as far left as you could probably get. They told me that racism has never been worse today than it has ever been in the history of humanity. And to which I was like, are you kidding? Like, slavery was only a couple hundred years ago. Not even a couple hundred years ago. And so she told me that it's different, but it's worse. Now, this was a person whose family owned property in New York City. So this is what I said to her. I was like, okay, you own property in New York. What would you do if an ethnic family of some sort, minorities, moved next door to your property? You know what she said? Without a hesitation, oh, I'd sell right away. I said, you'd sell? Why would you sell your property? And she said, because I'd be worried property value would go down if like minorities are moving in. And I'm like, this person who told me that they were they hated racism and they would fight against it, flat out told me they would sell their property out of fear of losing equity. And what I tell people a lot about racism in this country, there is an actual racist fear that exists in this country. And so there was a thing back in the day called blockbusting, and that was where realtors there's a bunch of different techniques they would use, but basically they would try and convince white people that black people were moving in to scare them into selling their houses for cheap so that the real estate company could buy it and then sell it at a profit. This practice is super illegal, and it's believed that in some places it still happens. But the reality is, for a lot of people, they believe that if Hispanic or black or Asians move into a white neighborhood, that property value will go down. Not that they actually don't like these people because of their race, but they're scared of losing their assets. So what ends up happening is there's this veiled market racism. And there's another problem that comes with this, right? So a lot of city spending comes from property taxes. And if the value of property starts declining and the property taxes go down, the city is going to allocate less money to fixing streets, paying for schools. So there really is racism in this country, and it's not the way that people on the left are describing it. It's not like there's an individual walking around screaming like, I hate all of these people because of the color of their skin. No, there's like a system in place that people are kind of, it's like dominoes falling over. The point being, to the people on the left, they need to chill out on calling everyone a Nazi, everyone a white supremacist, because all it does is discredit them and makes it impossible to actually figure out how to be cool with each other and actually help lift people up and integrate and invent cool things and contribute to society and just live good lives. And for a lot of people on the right talking about terror and things like that, it's the same thing. You know, the challenge is, I feel like everybody needs to be a little bit more moderate. I understand that people are going to look at something and say, dude, you don't understand how bad racism is. That's what they'll say to me. You don't understand how bad terrorism is. And I'm like, dude, I feel you, man. I'm not going to disagree with you. I respect your perspective. Absolutely. Let's simmer it down a little bit. Get some like citations, you know, print up some news stories. Let's sit down and not attack each other over this. Be like, I want you to read this and tell me what you think about it. Like, I don't want to tell you what to think. Just let me know what you think, and then let's have a conversation. That's how I like to do things. Got some super chats here. Hit this one back here first. Do you think your live stream will get subpoenaed when they find that body doggo that was trying to dig up the... So this is a joke. During the anti-Sharia protest, there was a dog digging, and I just filmed him, and I'm like, the dog found something. Let's see what he found. But no, the dog didn't find anything. The dog was just doing dog stuff. Why do you think the situation, as extreme as it is, has remained mostly rhetoric by both sides, i.e. apolitical, military, not enough support for either side? You know, the funny thing was, at this anti-Sharia thing in San Bernardino, there was like a couple hundred people on the right and a couple hundred people on the left. And I'm like, how many people live in SoCal, right? San Bernardino is about 60 miles outside of LA. LA's got like 10 million people in the surrounding area. A couple hundred people showed up. Most people don't care. Most people are sitting at home, eating tacos, talking about Game of Thrones. That's what I tell everybody. Game of Thrones, tacos. Because the Game of Thrones teaser came out not too long ago. I think it did. Maybe I'm crazy. What else did we just have? You know what they're talking about? They're talking about Wonder Woman. Pop culture. Right now it's like, you know, Pred. Hold the door. That's right. Someone said they traveled 20 miles. Yeah. You might think different if it were your kids blown up. Well, that's absolutely true. Someone commented, you might think different if it were your kids blown up. Hands down, 100% correct. What I tell people is, regardless of your let me hit the super chat real quick. Do you think the horse was trying to communicate via Morse code yesterday? So yesterday the horse was tapping on a sewer cap. Regardless of what your race is, your gender, your identity, whatever, everyone prioritizes the problems they experience as being the worst problems. Some people go to school and their teacher tells them like, oh, you know, we're going to run out of oil in this many years and global warming will destroy the planet. And that's what they know. And so they say, wow, global warming is the biggest problem. During Occupy Wall Street, they were trying to figure out what they wanted to protest. What was the cause of Occupy Wall Street? What was their core issue? And one guy, just exasperated, stood up and yelled, "What is wrong with you people? Fracking is the center of everything. We end fracking and we fix all of the problems." Uh-oh. We back up? Someone tried calling me. Who tried calling me? Well, I've got like 5 or 10 minutes before we start wrapping things up, but you know, basically the point was, this person genuinely believed they could solve all the world's problems if they ended fracking. And I certainly don't think that's the case. But then you get people who, you know, feminism. People are women, and as women, they experience the world. As women, they experience problems that they believe is because they're women, and so they want to fight those deal with those problems. Then you get men. The men's rights movement is significantly smaller, but you have men who perceive problems that affect them, and they think these problems are worse, and that, you know, they may have it worse than women, or that there are issues that need to be solved, and so then they prioritize those. Or you have people like Black Lives Matter. They experience problems, they think that's because they're black, therefore they want to solve these problems. That's what everybody does. Everybody says these are the problems I experienced that should be solved. Audio, video not lining up. Yeah, it's probably because somebody called me. But you know what? We still got a few minutes. Someone said they found oil on the driveway. They're gonna be a millionaire. Good luck, man. Fukushima is still leaking. You know, I actually went to Fukushima with Luke, and the video is up on my YouTube. It's on my YouTube. Yeah, you're on my YouTube. So I got a bunch of documentary stuff that I shot. You should check it out. It's fun stuff. I think what I'm gonna do with Luke is we're gonna do like a travel adventure to South Korea and talk with people about the conflict. And so it's going to be a mix of the political issues of the DMZ, North and South Korea, with experiencing South Korean fare and culture, and make it, a bit more fun, because a lot of the stuff in the U.S. has been so damn depressing. Tommy Robinson marched in UK today in Manchester. Guess what? Antifa shouting Nazis come. Yep. Puerto Rico just voted to become a state. Your thoughts? Yeah, cool, man. And if they voted, then by all means. It's really funny. There was a thing, I think it was like John Oliver who did this. Normally, I don't really like John Oliver because I think he panders. But talking about how the media kept calling people from Puerto Rico immigrants. And I'm like, Puerto Ricans are Americans. Like, you can literally just fly back and forth. That's just, what? It's part of the U.S. S. Yoshi Super Chat, thank you very much. Yeah, John Oliver has pandered really hard, and he's produced some bad info, and that bugs me. That bothers me a lot. But it is what it is, right? My issues with John Oliver, same issues I have with Paul Joseph Watson. I understand why they do it. It is what it is. There are people who believe what they believe, and they're going to talk about what they believe, and they have every right to do so. And I understand that people like that stuff. So John Oliver works, Mark Dice works, Paul Joseph Watson works, Rachel Maddow works. That stuff all works. Punditry is great. Everyone loves it. What bad information? So John Oliver did something on like Gamergate, and it was just very obviously pandering to the left. And I'm like, I tried talking to people about Gamergate, and I'm like, obviously the issues of Gamergate are more nuanced than the media is saying. The media, there was like some news report where they flat out said, the guy opens it, he goes, murder, rape. These aren't movies. This is video games. And I watched that, and I'm like, what? What video game like depicts violent rape? Like, that's crazy. Like, there's ratings on these games, and they get banned from, people don't want to, like, yeah, murder, like, for sure. Like, GTA is literally just that game. And then you have, like, you just have tons of games that's just about murder. But, John Oliver takes the stance that Anita Sarkeesian is the hero fighting this thing, and, for whatever it is, Anita Sarkeesian, she's accused of stealing gameplay footage from other people. I can say definitively that in one of her videos, she misrepresented a game, because I am familiar with the video game, and she made it seem like it was more sexist than it was. And so, by all means, you can say, like, there really are issues, like, playing World of Warcraft, or I don't know if World of Warcraft is the best example, but you play these games where, like, the female characters, their armor is a bikini. I'm like, yeah, that's, like, sure, we know who that game is targeting and what their intent is, and I respect a feminist's right to be upset about that, because they also would like to play these games. But at the same time, taking other people's footage she's accused of, and other things she's been accused of, just balance your story. Just let's like give a fair shot to whoever's involved in this. But sure enough, John Oliver's stance is strictly like Gamergate's bad. They're crazy. Period. And then with like Paul Joseph Watson, he's posted some stuff. He posted this thing about CNN lighting the skin of some guy, but it didn't actually come from CNN. I think the issue really is, not everyone's an expert on all of these issues. So someone like Paul is going to see something and go, that's crazy, and they're going to share it. And then, like John Oliver is going to hear this, and his producer going to talk about it, and he's going to think it's true, and they're going to share it. So that's why I don't take it personal. I don't think these people are evil. I just think that they live in this world, and that's the things they hear, and that's what they share. It is what it is. Someone made a CNN account that says, "We are ISIS." All right, well, someone said, "You are fake news." Okay. My allergies are acting up. It is now it's now 9 p.m. Eastern. I'm in LA, so it's like I do this at 8 p.m. Eastern. But it's about time to wrap things up. So if you guys have any questions, shoot them my way. You can tweet at me. Again, follow me on Twitter at Timcast, Timcast. If you want to support the work I do and you haven't given to the super chat, you can go to patreon.com/Timcast and give whatever you'd like monthly. It is all greatly appreciated. I'll have another video up tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern. Thank you all so much for hanging out, and I will see you all tomorrow.